All right, welcome to the One Take. I'm thrilled to be joined here by Mike Davis, CEO of CORT, and James Conigliaro, CEO of Dwellworks. Thank you both for being here, and thanks everyone for joining us. It's a pleasure to be with both of you again. Last week we were together in bright and sunny Zagreb,
Yeah.
Croatia. I'm kidding. It was raining the whole time, but we wouldn't have known otherwise, anyways, because we were locked up
That's right.
indoors in
There,
meetings the
there
whole
was a
time.
lot of sunshine in the conference space, so we,
There
we
you go.
broadened inside.
That's right. That's right. Um, look, we've obviously had really interesting conversations, the three of us, I've with each one of you separately. But before we dive into talking about some of the things that I think are really interesting and relevant for the industry. Um, let me just make sure that folks that would be watching, I mean, most everyone in our industry should know who the two of you are and who Court and Dwellworks are, but let's not presume that. If you wouldn't mind just taking a quick second to give us a quick background overview of your respective businesses, I think that would be great. So maybe we get started with Mike and then
Sure.
James.
Yeah. So I'm the CEO for Court Business Services. We are the United States' largest provider of furnishings, rental furnishings across the United States, as well as various services such as housewares, providing housewares, bedding, linens, anything you need for the kitchen. We are also in the event and trade show space, where we provide products and services. We also help companies when it comes to insurance claims. So when there's a natural disaster, we provide those services to insurance housing companies. We provide services to the United States government. We're in the residential space. We're in the office space. We're in the trade show and event space. We also have a global network of partners across the world in 80 countries that provide the same services that we do. And so we have standards and processes that relocation companies use so that they know that when they're dealing with us, somebody like Cardis or someone like Weichert, when they're dealing directly with us and they want to use one of our partners, they know they've been vetted and that they have the same processes that we do and standards that we do. And we provide also a high touch service along with that so that these partners are constantly being evaluated and making sure that we're all singing off the same page, if you will, and providing the same services. We also have a location in the UK that provides that as well outside London, residential services, relocation, and office product as well. And we're one of Berkshire Hathaway's companies since 2000.
So you get to hobnob with Mr. Buffett himself.
I have met the man, but I wouldn't call it hobnobbing.
Okay, go. All right, all right. Thank you for that, Mike.
Sure.
James?
Sure. So Dwellworks is a mobility support services company with specializations in destination services, which we do in 16 countries around the globe. The Americas, EMEA, and APAC, 16 countries. We do temporary accommodations across the globe. So that is a vetted, unbiased approach to securing temporary housing for relocation management companies, for corporations direct, specifically for their travel needs. We've got a US-based property management business to manage executives' homes, outbound executives' homes here in the US, a rental real estate business in the US, and finally, an intercultural training business that we do globally. I think, in short, we see our business purpose as facilitating talent mobility, and aligning with the needs of our customers and our clients to drive enterprise value on their behalf. I think that's sort of what we see as our business purpose.
That's awesome. I love it. Thank you to both of you for taking the time and sharing the background there. I mean, I was saying earlier, there's a lot of interesting things we could talk about um, in each of your respective businesses and many of the conversations that we've had, including pontificating on the meaning of life and what's going on in the larger landscape, etc. But let's focus in on a specific element that I find quite interesting and fascinating, that I think should be general knowledge within the industry by this point, but perhaps not. And even if it is, then I think I'd like to unpack it a little bit and try to get into it a little deeper for everyone's benefit, including my own. But before we dive into it, Mike, thank you so much for wearing a jacket. James and I are just totally dropping the ball on this. You're carrying us and making us look good,
Yeah,
so I
yeah. Well,
appreciate that.
I always keep one hanging on my wall here in my office just in
Yeah,
case,
yeah.
and
I
I
know.
figured,
Balance it out. Balance it
yeah,
out. I like it.
I figured you guys would be in t-shirts, so I'm happy that you dressed up a little.
I would have been, Mike, and I actually put this on right before the call. So this is
Oh,
just,
there you go.
yeah.
There you go.
Well, my
Balance it out.
filter was actually going, you could barely see me, but I just can't get that to work. So,
Yeah, that's funny. All right, so turning to serious topic, the two of you recently completed an M&A transaction and announced a partnership in addition to that, or in parallel to that, between the two firms. Can you just, before we sort of unpack it, walk us through exactly what you did by way of this transaction and partnership announcement?
Sure. I'll take that, Mike. Do you want me to give first
yes,
pass on
sir.
it? So Dwellworks acquired the US-based destination services business of CORT. We've been friendly competitors for a long time. Had a lot of respect for the CORT organization, still do, the CORT team. Sometimes we like to say we've been frenemies for many years. We collaborated in different ways over the years. In the very early days of Dwellworks, CORT was a customer of ours using our network of independent contractors across the US. More recently, as we've really dug into the temporary accommodations business, CORT's been a great partner, furniture rental for some of our property suppliers because they do such a great job of logistics there. The nature of this transaction was we fully acquired that business from CORT, added that to our existing US operating business. The continued partnership we have is our exclusive use of CORT's apartmentsearch.com platform. So that's a platform of 30,000 rental properties across the US. CORT, Mike, speaking on your behalf here, but CORT's invested a lot of time and resources and money in building their relationships with multifamily providers across the US. And as part of that, they've built this great database of live property information of US rental properties, everywhere across the US. What we've done as part of this transaction is integrated that property tool into the Dwellworks service delivery platform called My Dwellworks. So now our assignees and our network of independent contractors across the US have at their fingertips access to this live property database, which really makes the service delivery experience richer for the assignee as they're doing the part of the home site finding for destination services. And last but not least, we expanded our network of independent contractors across the US. So sort of filling out a little bit of the white space, taking on some of those local experts that we need for destination services that have CORT client specific expertise and adding their knowledge and expanding the richness of our network of local experts across the US.
Gotcha. Okay, really interesting because I've been thinking about it a lot, and we obviously talked about it a little bit, but as I think about it, I mean, essentially you've got a backdrop. I mean, you essentially did this deal at a time, you made this acquisition at a time when um, many, if not most, in our industry are feeling the effects of a pretty softened global landscape, right, within talent mobility market, but a lot of uncertainty in the general economic and business landscape with uncertainty around trade and tariffs and immigration policy and so on as it relates to the United States, but generally in a lot of big economies around the world. And so it's not first glance is not the right time or necessarily the logical time one would think you're going about making an acquisition. So how did this come about? Like, what was the backstory to this? Is this something you had been the two of you have been thinking about for a long time, and why does it make sense? I mean, we heard a little bit, James, your perspective on why it made sense for Dwellworks, but Mike, how did you think about it and Court think about it, and why, how and why did this come about?
It was a focus on, well, during these times, obviously, we're all trying to find our footing and understand where the industry is going, especially in the relocation side. And we started looking at our different business verticals, and we have been involved in the destination services side for over 20 years in one form or another. And Relocation Central really, a number of years ago, we had a entity called Relocation Central,
Hmm.
where we were looking to really go into what Dwellworks has done, at least in the United States. And at that time, we just decided that it wasn't really it wasn't one of our great strengths. And so we've always had these elements. And the DS part of this was a piece of it that we've just maintained and grew over a period of time. But in stepping back and looking at what we really wanted to focus on over the next few years, we thought to ourselves, is there a way for us to still stay engaged in the relocation side of the business to have an opportunity down the road when things settle, potentially for us to come back into it in a different way? In other words, we didn't want to leave. And we saw what Dwellworks was doing. We really appreciated the culture that Dwellworks has, the footprint that Dwellworks has. And we thought, well, we don't want to starve the DS business in the sense of time and capital, because we have other areas that's core to our business that we need to invest in during these times. What could be a potential outcome? And we started talking about the different possibilities, everything from, do we just not feed it very much and leave it in this sort of idle space for a while? Do we think about getting out of it altogether? Or is there an alternative that can serve both the current view as well as future state? And that's when we started thinking about a partnership with Dwellworks and thinking that this could be something that could be interesting for both companies during this period of time. One, Dwellworks already had this footprint. They had some capacity within the footprint that they had. We had those people that we felt would be a good cultural match and be able to move over some of them into Dwellworks. We just thought that 2 + 2 really equaled 5 in this scenario and would allow us to focus on some of the core things that we continue to do while still being engaged, while still using our global network, while still using these touring services that James was referring to, of where Court had a network of over 1,000 independent brokers across the United States that provide these services for relocating individuals and families. So really, it wasn't the first thing we thought of, frankly. It took a while for us to really kick this around, talking with the team at the senior level at Dwellworks, and really, is there something here? And I think James, and please comment on this. I think when we first started talking about it, we all felt that there was something here. And it was just a case of us figuring out, okay, what does that look like? Does it have to be this, it's sold and it's over there and that's the end? Or can it be where there's an acquisition, but a long-term partnership as we all navigate the road ahead in what this looks like to our industry? And perhaps, again, the 2 + 2 really does equal 5 down the road. So we felt this was a very good outcome. It was good from a people standpoint. We obviously had some of our people that moved over to Dwellworks. And we think it'll be really good from a future state standpoint, because there's tremendous opportunities down the road, I think, for both organizations.
Yeah.
That's so. If I were to, sorry, James, I'll turn to you in a second. But if I were to try and summarize from my perspective, I mean, Court is a very big business. I mean, you guys have a pretty sizable P&L, or I shouldn't say pretty sizable, very sizable P&L. Um, uh, Very, very large business with a lot of different businesses, as you described in the opening, big portfolio of offerings, etc. So you're basically saying to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as I'm processing it and try to simplify it for myself and for those listening, essentially you looked at your portfolio of businesses and offerings, and without wanting to not wanting to starve a specific business line and not wanting to let go of it fully, you essentially look to see where can you focus your resources most effectively to maximize ROI and shareholder value creation, and where you could find this sort of logical um, collaboration, if you will, through an M&A transaction, this partnership to sort of focus your energies and resources on what is more core to Court's business. Is that
Yeah,
an okay summary?
that's absolutely it in a nutshell. It's really it's an allocation of time and capital. And where do you want to spend your time and where do you want to spend your capital? And you need to have the very grand strategy of looking out 3 to 5 years and beyond, but you also live in the moment. And you
Right.
recognize that if this moment that we're all in that's existed, this moment's been going on since 2020 in some form or another.
Yeah.
And we don't think that there's going to be a sea change in
Yeah.
the immediate future. It was taking all of those elements and saying, could we do something? Could we find something that was perhaps not obvious? And I
Yeah.
don't think this was obvious. And again, I'll have James speak to this too. When we talked to our customers about this before we announced it, it was not obvious to them.
Hmm.
They kind of went, huh. And at least in our experiences and the ones I were involved in, and after they thought about it, they said, well, that, okay, now we get it. We understand. They just
Hmm.
hadn't thought about this. They had seen us as frenemies. Perhaps they thought that one would acquire the other one and, in totality, but they hadn't really thought about it this way. And after thinking about it, they said, well, this is really is good. And it's something that we think will be good for us because it's so complementary, because Dwellworks has such an expansion in this area that we don't.
Yeah.
And so to your point, you summed it up perfectly. It just was something though that probably we talked about for about 8 months.
Hmm. Oh, wow. That's pretty quick.
Yeah, it happened pretty quick once we got to the point of we recognized that this made sense. And to your
Yeah.
point, the counter perhaps of that was an interesting time, but there were so many synergies with this that we felt that the risk was fairly low.
Hmm.
And so it made a lot of sense in this. We just didn't see when you looked at all the potential outcomes, getting together and having this partnership and Dwellworks picking up this piece of the business, it
Yeah.
really was the lowest risk and the best outcome. And it's rare that you get those two things together.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So thanks for your perspective on that. James, let me turn to you. So you guys acquired this business at a time for our industry that is one of the most difficult times our industry has experienced, certainly in the last 10 years, perhaps longer. Um, is typically a time when most businesses are not looking to rock the boat. They're trying to just hunker down and like, hey, let's just get through this and do what we need to do as opposed to go make bold moves and try to acquire businesses or other things like that. So
Yeah.
it's sort of a risky, dare I say, somewhat audacious kind of even thought. How did you guys think about it? Why, like, what was the strategic rationale? Why did it make sense? And
Yeah,
why
I
now?
guess I think about it when I think about what Dwellworks has accomplished over the last 17 years. We sort of always lean in these moments when there's sort of a slowdown across the industry. So in 2009, when we were dealing with a Great Recession, we went and established a new property management business. So we
Hmm.
built a new vertical for our business. In 2020, 5 years ago, right now, we were integrating the Oakwood acquisition of their technology and their platform. I think, coming into this year, and, Mike, you'll remember it was your last year where we kind of really said, okay, let's think about this and start having real discussions about could we do this? So for us, the timing, it just makes sense. I think this is the time when companies should be thinking this way. They should be thinking about consolidation and, more importantly, I think collaboration. I think it's an imperative right now. I think of this transaction as two industry leaders who want to thrive coming together in a smart way to create a win-win-win for customers and their clients and their customers, for our network and for our partners and investors. I mean, everyone gets a win out of this, in my view.
Hmm. Hmm. I love it. So 2 + 2 = 5, Mike said, and win-win-win, you said, James. So I like those. I like the variety here. It's so what does this actually mean for customers? I mean, you guys have both alluded to it, that it's a win for them. How is it exactly a win for them? What do they get through this combination better or different than what they were getting previously?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things for the RMCs, and I think, I agree with Mike. At first, there were a few questions like, explain this to me. But I think very quickly, RMCs really came to embrace this. We're helping them simplify their supply chain. So, I think we're still a relationship business in a lot of ways in mobility. And I think RMCs want to distribute volume as best they can. But I think when everyone's looking at some constrained volumes at this point, sort of consolidating in fewer suppliers, we're kind of making that easier for them. So I think for the RMCs, it's easier administration of their supply chain. For their clients, and specifically the customers, the assignees who are moving,
Yeah.
I think it's a better experience for them. I think they've got access to a bigger network of local
Mhm.
experts. I think the integrated technology with properties in the experience now is a much better experience. And we're seeing real traction with that at the transaction level, with the customers really embracing those properties, and sort of driving the solutions that Court has built through their relationships with the multifamily providers to the benefit of the assignees.
Gotcha. Okay. And what about people in the respective businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has helped us add great talent to our team. I mean, we're really super proud of the Dwellworks team, but we're able to add Court experts and talent, that bring new expertise both on a client basis as well as their products. What this allows Dwellworks to do, with higher top line revenue from this transaction, it helps us continue to invest in compliance,
Mm.
in people and process and product, continue to invest in technology. I mean, that's important to do now too. I think continued investments in technology, in customer experience, and importantly, in compliance is critical. And you need to leverage that volume to be able to do that, to bring to the RMCs and to the corporate customers the kind of business and service delivery that they expect.
Oh, that's actually a really great point. So basically, the part of the win-win-win that you were talking about is each of you, rather than duplicating resources and doing the marketing and customer acquisition and so on, now are sort of through synergies, eliminating at least one of those spend line items, if you will, and instead taking that savings and investing it in improving product experiences and such. I guess the
Yeah.
corollary to what Mike was saying, which is rather than starve the business, help it actually succeed and thrive. Fascinating. Okay, I think this is super interesting. Obviously, we can have this conversation. I can drive this conversation for a whole lot longer, but I recognize that you all need to get back to doing the good work for customers and clients and such, and folks need to get on with their work. But let me ask you in sort of closing, so what's ahead for your respective businesses? What does the next 12, 18, 36 months looks like? What are your top three priorities, let's say?
Oh, well, yeah, I wish there was just top three, but certainly the top three are, well, just navigating. I don't think that the industry really hasn't come out of the years that we've experienced in a meaningful way from COVID.
Yeah.
Each year has had its ups and downs, but we really haven't had what I would call a foundational year yet. I think across our industry, whether it's in the relocation side, whether it's in the furniture side, it's just we're not there yet. And so one
Mhm.
of the challenges is navigating through that and making sure you have the resources and capital to continue to go. The other part of this is really understanding where the opportunities are.
Yeah.
I think I know I'm spending more time today thinking about the possibilities because I feel that we're not very far from really seeing some acceleration again. And
Mm.
so this was another piece of that was getting together with Dwellworks allows us a better understanding holistically of the industry and the sharing of that knowledge. And so it's really focusing on just making sure we're doing the smart things in the business and managing expenses, looking at opportunities perhaps that we wouldn't have considered before,
Mm.
given the market environment, and continuing to invest, as James was mentioning, where it makes sense.
Interesting. James?
Sure. I mean, again, kind of repeating what you guys are saying. I mean, we are in this uncertain business environment right now. We'll get past it, I think, as we sort of sort through immigration policies around the globe, not just in the US, the tariffs and how they're impacting global commerce. We'll sort of see what the future looks like. I think what we're doing at Dwellworks is being ready for growth, right? So whatever that looks like in sort of a new world order, we'll be ready to sort of challenge to meet the needs for that growth. We continue to be interested in how we facilitate global mobility, how we help support talent everywhere, sort of a steal a line from you. So we want to continue to do that. We're focusing on the talent mission. We're going to continue investing in operational excellence, in AI, how that can help provide better experiences, take friction out of the process. And again, just like we did with Court, we're looking for those opportunities to consolidate and collaborate so that we all come out stronger when the growth returns.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I love that. Mike, I was thinking about what you were just saying, and one of the things that's core to your business, or a very important factor, I imagine, to your business is return to office. Any crystal ball predictions on how that's going to play out over the next couple of years?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's an area that we continue to see is meaningfully impaired. And I don't think that there's going to be a sea change in that. I mean, it's one thing for the tech companies and banking, it's mostly in finance and tech that they're requiring people to come back to the office. Now, part of this, I think, is socioeconomic, is those people on average are making $100,000 or $100,000 and above. So it's a very meaningful employment and job for them. So having these requirements of having them come back to these urban centers, whether it's New York City or what you have, there's probably going to be more lift in that. The vast majority of people that were inhabiting offices before were not making $150,000 and 160 or whatever the number may be. They were more in a lower economic stratosphere. The opportunity for other companies, the industries that really make up the office middle, the majority of the people that were in offices, I don't see that they're going to be able to mandate bringing everyone back to those 5 days a week. In fact, I think that the fact that there's still a good job market is going to play into that. So we do not see a meaningful sea change in that regard. Will there be episodic events? Yes. Will that create some lift? Yes. But I don't see us going back to where we were pre-pandemic. I think it's going to be a hybrid at best. And in many cases, if it's working for them, why change it? Especially for somebody that isn't in that economic stratosphere. So they're going to have to
Mm.
compete for somebody making 65 or 70 or whatever the number is, $1,000 a year. And we're still here on a hybrid model, and I have no intent on changing that because, frankly, we're very close to DC. I could not have gotten the talent that we've been able to hire if we didn't have that, or in some cases, allow them to work from home.
Mm. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So, James, it becomes even more important, the line you stole from us, talent everywhere. Serving
Yeah.
talent everywhere is important. So, well, with that, I want to thank each of you. Again, like I said, this is um, a conversation that could go on a whole lot longer, and we'll carry it offline. I'm certain of that. But appreciate y'all taking the time to have this conversation with me and helping unpack and shine a light on what I think y'all, the two organizations did that I think seems like it should be a really good, really good development for the customers and market and your respective organizations. So appreciate you taking the time and having this conversation.
Thank you. We appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Great to see you again.
All right.